Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody is having a fantastic Friday. It's casual Friday, as you can see. No shaving here today, no fancy backdrop. So, again, just casual Friday for me. And not going to be on very long today, but just wanted to come on live for a handful of minutes to talk about the power of getting interviewed and also some secrets from the side of a podcaster. So everybody these days wants to get on the top podcasts, and on both sides of the mic, I've been interviewed thousands of times, I guess now, and then also interviewed, as you guys know, if you followed me for a bit, thousands of people. And so I hope I can share a few little secrets for those of you that are wanting to get booked on podcasts, which is sort of a different beast altogether than getting booked on traditional media. And I feel there's a lot of do's and don'ts. Again, this is going to be a short handful of minutes live. So I won't be able to dive into all the strategies, but I think what I'll do is maybe a part 2 and maybe even part 3. But I wanted to share just some strategies with you around getting booked on podcasts and some do's and don'ts that I think will serve you quite well, especially if you're wanting to leverage podcasting to increase your voice and get your message out to more people. I will say podcasting has proved to be a really, I'm going to say almost a gold mine for authors in relation to getting their books out into the world. I've noticed that my book sales when I'm on podcast bumps, and I'm with a traditional publisher, but I noticed that I can see a bump in the rankings and ratings after I go on certain podcasts. And I believe it's the type of people that listen to podcasts are also very avid readers. I've heard studies that have backed that up. So getting on podcasts can be very beneficial, whether you're a speaker, author, expert, entrepreneur, influencer, trying to grow your business, trying to grow your brand, your expertise, whatever that looks like. And so again, I just wanted to give you some strategies around that because it's still such a new medium that I feel people do struggle with. How do I get booked on podcasts and what's the best practices? And I'm going to say as well, depending on when you're listening here, because you may catch the replay, you may join us and then jump off before I'm done. So I will say I'm going to post, if you check the comments here, I'm going to post a link to a masterclass that I'm doing on June 22nd. This is going to be the biggest deep dive masterclass I've ever done. And I'll actually look at the page for it just to tell you a bit about it. But it's called Activating the Domino Effect, the secrets to being seen, being heard, and creating impact. And basically, it's me sharing the secrets I've learned during interviews with over 6,500 of the world's top influencers. And I'm going to talk about how to stop chasing sales, how to reach more people with your message, how to knock over the right dominoes to secure media, interviews, and credibility, how to land branded talks, how to leverage a book to become known as the instant expert, and all that kind of good stuff. And so, if you're interested in signing up for that, either let me know if you're listening now and you don't see the link, and I'll send you the link, or I'm going to put the link in some of the comments. I say some of the comments because we're broadcasting on about 12 platforms, and with every one, or with half of them, StreamYard won't let me actually put the link in the comments on my side here to go to every one of those. So some of them I'll have to put them in manually. But again, if you want to check it out, it's a webinar/masterclass called Activating the Dominoes, deepest dive thing I've ever done around this area, and completely free. So again, June 22nd at 2 p.m. Eastern. And having said all that, I'm going to dive into what I mentioned, which is here are some secrets for getting interviewed, and specifically on podcasts. But of course, I can answer questions or dive deeper if you want to know more about other media and traditional media and mainstream media and all that kind of stuff as well. So I want to share, as I mentioned, a couple of things today, and then I'll maybe do a part 2 and a part 3 because I have 5 things I wanted to share in total, but I won't have time for 5 today. So the first one I want to share, and it might be the most important one when you're pitching podcasters, is don't go with long pitches. So don't send me, if I'm the podcaster you're trying to reach out to, a long 2-page email explaining why you're the right fit for the show. It seems like the right approach because you're telling the podcaster why about who you are, your backstory, your background. But traditionally, podcasters, and this is not just speaking from my own experience, it's from sitting with many podcasters and many podcasting conferences talking about this. But podcasters don't like reading those long emails or long pitches. And so what happens is they tend to just ignore it altogether. They don't even, and I hate to say this, but a lot of podcasters don't even read the full pitch because it's too long. So to give you an example, I had a large, I'm not going to say names, a large book publisher, traditional book publisher, send me a couple of really big guests, like big name guests with big followings, and sent them along and didn't put their name anywhere in the subject header. And I ended up going through later on and seeing a couple of guests that I've been trying to get for a while, and I didn't even know that they had pitched me that. Now, you could say that's my fault, but when you get 25 to 50 pitches a day and they're that long, I just didn't even read to see who I was missing out on. One of those people we ended up securing an interview with recently, so we recovered from it. But I didn't even get a chance to read because it was so long. They could have just put the subject in the subject, who the guest was, and then gave me a one paragraph on what they're doing now and why they'd be a good fit for the show. And there'd be a 99% better chance of me seeing that and booking that guest. So again, the big takeaway here is if you're pitching podcasters, this would go for any media, but I'm just saying if you're pitching podcasters, don't go with a long pitch. And so the question is, what do you do instead? And so I'm going to give you, I said two, but I'll give you a third tip. The third one is listen to the person's podcast. Listen to an episode or two. Tell them what you liked about the episode. Tell them what you liked about the guest. Tell them what you like about their show. Why it resonates with you. You know, if you're, for example, a single parent and it's a show for single parents, then that's the key thing. That's your lead, if you will. That's the thing that's going to pull them in, is that you're a single parent as well. And, you know, to say, I'm a single parent as well, and I know you had so-and-so in the show and they said this, and you could say, I agree with it, and I would add this, or I don't even agree with that, and let me tell you why. And that's the kind of thing podcasts are listening to, because now they know you listen to the show, now they know you get a feel for it, and also you can either expand on a topic or even contrast the topic and talk about why you don't agree with that. And so you'd be better off to do, in my experience, a one paragraph on why you'd be a better why you'd be a good fit to add to the show based on a guest that you heard on the show. And what you could do in the subject is you could actually say, so-and-so said this, I wanted to add this, or so-and-so said this, however, here's what I think should have been added. And that'll get their attention, because now you're talking about their show, what's in it for them. And then also I would say, and here's why that matters to your audience in the pitch. So make it about the host, make it about the audience, make it about their show, and show that you're not just pitching everybody, that you actually are customizing it to them. So that would be the takeaway from no long pitches and listen to their show. And then the other tip I was going to give you, and by the way, feel free to pose a question if you want. Again, I'm winding down here already, but if you have a question before I jump off, and if I see it, I will tackle it. If not, if you're watching the replay, then just put the question in the comments and I'll tackle it there. But the other thing I want to say, and this is something that came up with an interview I had a couple of weeks ago with Jordan Harbinger, who has the Jordan Harbinger show, used to have the Art of Charm show. I would say combined with both shows, he's had over 200 million downloads, so over 200 million listeners, which is insane. And so Jordan, one of the things we talked about is how people often in their pitches bury the lead. And so when I say bury the lead, I mean they bury what would be most appealing to that podcaster. So he gave the example that a lot of people pitch him saying, I can come on your show and give people the new way to do this. Insert whatever here, like coaching. I can give you the new way to lose weight, whatever that is. And then they'll leave out the fact that at his show, if you listen to his show, he likes bringing on people, for example, that could have been undercover or could have had this unique experience in let's say, the armed forces. And so they'll leave that out and talk about this new pitch or product they have, but not talk about how this part of their backstory was so interesting, but also led to the product that they have. And he's had people, he said he turned down only to find out later they had something in their backstory that he would love to have them on this show. And, you know, this is a podcast with 250,000 listeners. That's a rare thing. So what I'm saying is don't bury the lead. Don't ignore your backstory and history, especially if it's super interesting. Even if you don't think it is, ask other people. But if you ask other people about your backstory and tell them about it, they lean in to hear more, then you want to include that some way into your pitch, because he might bring you on to talk about your backstory, about you being undercover, and then still lead into what you're wanting to talk about now, your new book or whatever that might be. You know, so for instance, for a long time, I buried the lead that I did stand-up comedy. And yet I discovered whenever I talk to people and we start talking about my background, every time I brought up stand-up comedy, they got really interested. They started asking me lots of questions. They leaned in. And so in theory, I should be adding that to my pitch when I'm pitching a fellow podcaster or media or what have you. You know, the reason I feel so important about, for example, launching our member site to help influencers up level is because when I started back in stand-up comedy and started performing, I started, I was bombing on those stages. I was having horrible shows. Bombing in the comedy world is like having a bad set. I was having these bad sets on shows, but I started learning more and more about communicating. And I started learning more and more about how I could help people get rid of those, the crappy days by coming to my show and bringing them out of their head. And that got me into speaking, which then got me into wanting to help other people get their message out to the world, because I saw how rewarding it could be and how you can help people get away from the crappy part of their day. And so what I'm saying, if you see what I did there, and I'm just talking, I did that in real time. That wasn't planned. But in my pitch, I could put a part about how stand-up comedy evolved into what I do today. And then maybe make a joke or a note about something that happened in stand-up comedy that could have destroyed my stand-up comedy endeavors. And so that's, me not burying the lead. Don't ignore the stand-up comedy part just because you think it doesn't relate to helping influencers get in front of more people. And so those are your 3 tips today around getting interviewed more often, and especially with podcasters. Don't pitch in long form. Don't give this really long pitch, 2 pages on an email or however you send the pitch. Don't bury the lead, most important part of your story or your backstory. And then listen to episodes of their show and comment on why you think you'd be a good fit based on guests that they've had on, or the show itself, or how you relate to the show, or your backstory and how it relates to the show. Those are your 3 tips about getting interviewed today. 3 secrets, I'll call them, that not everybody realizes when they're pitching podcasters. And then to add the last part again is I'll say, I'm going to put in my comments about this masterclass. I'm super stoked about this masterclass. First time I've ever done one at this scale, and such a deep dive around things like, again, how to get on more media, how to pay sales less often, how to build your credibility quicker, how to land branded talks, how to interview people in terms of interview traits and skills, how to get big name influencers to endorse your stuff and or to spend time with you. And so we're really going to deep dive into this masterclass again called Activating the Dominoes, the art of being seen, being heard, and creating impact. And so I hope you'll join me on that. And again, the link will be in the comments here momentarily. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. I hope you're having a magical Friday, and we'll talk to you soon.